Evidence that alcohol causes multiple types of cancer is outlined in a new opinion piece penned by a University of Otago academic. It's a piece that's already attracting a lot of interest and feedback for its author, Professor Jennie Connor, and she joins us now to talk about it. Good evening.
Good evening.
How have you come to the conclusion that alcohol causes cancer?
Well, what I've done in this review is I've looked at all the existing evidence, because there is a great deal of it goes back several decades. And I've had a particularly hard look at whether we can justify saying that these associations are causal or whether they're just associations for some other reason. But the evidence is very strong. And in the article I've tried to explain how we come to that conclusion, that it's actually causal, and I've compared it with the idea that alcohol has benefits for your heart. And when you compare the body of evidence, the evidence for that is much weaker.
How long have you been researching the topic?
Well, my own interest in alcohol goes back 10 or so years. It came out of my interest in injury research originally. But just recently I've published a paper that estimates the number of alcohol-related cancer deaths in New Zealand each year, and so I got very interested in the overall body of evidence that this was a causal relationship, and the fact that it's not very well known amongst the public or even amongst policymakers that this actually is a causal relationship.
Were you surprised by the level of interest in your research?
I was a little surprised. There's been a lot of international attention. It's partly because it was published in the leading alcohol journal, which is based in London. And so I think probably the media are very aware of what comes out in that journal. But also it's not so much controversial as just doesn't have a very high profile. And I think the finding that there's no threshold that's completely safe for cancer risk is quite concerning.
What's been the response from the liquor industry?
Well, their response has been consistent with their past behaviour. So the liquor industry has a set of strategies they use, and the most unpleasant ones are about undermining the researchers and the experts personally and damaging their reputations. But more in this case, we've had more response that's really just to deny that it's true. So to say that there is a lot of evidence and it shows that alcohol doesn't cause cancer, which is just simply not true.
Are there any misconceptions about your work that you want to clear up?
I think one of the things that comes across is that people sometimes assume that an epidemiologist like myself will have a vested interest in the answer to this question. So I don't have that. I mean, I would be delighted if alcohol didn't cause cancer, or if it was even substantially in doubt. That would be a good outcome for health, which is my interest. So I think sometimes people see the alcohol industry and the health experts as two sides of some kind of argument, when in fact public health is interested in the health of the population and the alcohol industry is interested in selling alcohol.
Do you think more needs to be done to stem the flow of contradictory evidence about the health effects of alcohol?
I think it's a very difficult thing for people to absorb the amount of information and the different messages. I mean, this is one of the motivations for writing the paper. It's not aimed directly at the public, but it is aimed at trying to equip people who work in the field with a good sense of why we can draw such a strong conclusion, so that they can counter some of the arguments that it's not true. I think also when we make policy about what kind of policies we should have to control alcohol in the population, we need to take into account all of the different health harms and potential benefits and so on, because people support drinking, they like drinking and they talk about the social benefits, but they need to know about all of the problems that can stem from drinking.
From the University of Otago, Professor Jennie Connor, thanks so much for your time.
Thank you.